Hey guys, I thought I would take a second just to talk to you about books for a minute. I just finished a really great audiobook, and just to give you some backstory, I am not a reader, and I think many of my friends that I've grown up with, many friends I've come into contact with, we've had like general conversations. It's been about lifting or something close to lifting, or picking something up, or how much you can pick up, and so on and so forth. That's kind of where we stop. I got to tell you, it's been 20 months now, 20 months that I have been doing audiobooks. And it just kind of hit me with the first one. I took a chance on one because I was doing great with podcasts. And the first book I tried was called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And that book flipped something in my brain. And that thing that flipped was it just gave me some confidence. The confidence was that not only can I learn, I can learn at a pace that I never thought possible. Um, and there's so many things that have been just at the surface level for me from all my life that I no longer have to have at the surface level. I can dig in deep, and I can dig in so deep that I can have really intense conversations. But more importantly, I can think critically about things that I never thought before, and I can pull all these resources together to think in a different way. So, reason for this video here is that I just finished a book called Talking with Strangers. And Talking with Strangers is a book by Malcolm Gladwell. If you're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote many books. The two that I've done so far, this most recently was, again, Talking to Strangers, Talking with Strangers, Talking to Strangers, Talking to Strangers, sorry. And the other one was Outliers. Outliers I did by a recommendation from my boss, actually. And this one was all about understanding humanity, and the second one also similar to that, but humanity in terms of how things happen, why things are amazing, why certain people have these outlier capacities, and what that looks like. I'm not going to give the summary of the book, but that's in the direction of the book. That's kind of gives you the why behind some of the greatest people of the world that we view that way, anyways. And then this book here was called Talking to Strangers. And I was on my list for a while because it was recommended by Malcolm Gladwell's list of books, and I was like, okay, I'll get there. And I had this impression in my mind that it was a book about how to talk to people. And I was like, okay, all right. I'm getting better at talking to folks on all kinds of levels. I just had a nearly a 2-hour conversation with a man that I'd known for a few years, cursory level. And it was all our conversations prior to this night was powerlifting specifically, and that was it. This conversation here turned completely on its ear, and we went down multiple roads of different avenues of different subjects, and none of them came back to powerlifting. They were all over the place, from religion to cryogenics to space to on and on and on. It was a good deep conversation. I'm finding myself being able to do that with anybody now. So talking to strangers kind of fit that mode for me. I was like, okay, this may be a compliment to what I was looking at. Well, much like with anything, as the old adage says, you cannot judge a book by its cover, even if it's an audiobook. And you cannot do that. So talking to strangers was not about how to talk to people in a setting necessarily and meet them. There's an underlying pin of that is kind of there, but it's more about what happens when we talk to people, and what can go wrong when we approach it the same way we always have in the past and utilize our normal human tendencies. Again, this is not going to be a summarization of the book. I'm going to tell you, though, that this book is another one of those books that kind of makes you think differently, puts your perspective on everything, and it's a game changer in your brain. If you just let things come in and have what's called a growth mindset, have things come in and affect you and let them run their course over you, this is one of those books that will do it to you. If you're familiar at all with Sandra Bland, it begins and ends with that. And there's a whole bunch in between there that's not about Sandra Bland. If you're worried about that process, if you know who she is, you should. If you don't, you should. I won't tell you more about that. But the book itself is pretty freaking amazing, and it covers a wide spectrum of why things happen and what we do, and histories behind it and studies behind it, and just good information. And it will it should unlock something in your brain if you allow it in to move forward there. So that's it, man. I'm hoping somebody gets this. I'm hoping somebody turns a switch on in their brain. Hoping somebody tries to learn a different way for themselves. Audiobooks have been fantastic for me. I've always been a terrible reader. I just kind of fall asleep at the wheel when it comes to reading. I don't retain. I drift. But when I walk or drive, mainly walk. When I walk and listen, these books sink in hard. And let me go back, and I forgot to mention a point here. 20 months of this This was my 141st book that I just finished. And none of my books have been small. All have been a heavy, thick, hard hitting books across the board. I'd say probably six of those, maybe 10 of them have been a fiction book. Um, but most of those fiction books, I think only three of them have been fun. I enjoy Alien. Beyond that, all of them have been hard hitting books, deep discussions, and just building upon each other in different ways. And each book, I'll kind of take some or two quotes from it or whatever, something along those lines, and I'll find another book, another direction, and I'll keep going. So the video's getting long. Sorry about that. I just wanted to, hopefully, my whole intention here was to reach out to somebody and say, hey, if you thought about more than headlines, maybe you want to change your life a little bit. Books are the way. Just got to find a way you can get them into your thick skull. So that's what I've been working on for me. Thanks. See you.